Joining us now from Washington is Julie Su, the acting US Secretary of Labor. Julie Su, wonderful to catch up with you. A hot labour market report at a time where the unions seem to have a lot of leverage, so let's go straight there. What's your latest read on the UAW negotiations?
Well, the parties are at the table. They're continuing to negotiate. The president has made very clear, something I believe in too, that when there are record corporate profits, there should be record contracts for working people, and that's what workers are fighting for. So the negotiations continue, and I believe that the parties will get there.
Are you getting access to both parties to help negotiate a settlement?
Yeah, we're talking to both parties. I mean, again, the collective bargaining process is about the parties themselves coming together, working through their issues, finding common ground and win-win solutions. We support that in every way that we can, and we are continuing to talk to the parties in that particular situation.
What have you heard recently about current demands from UAW? We understand that wage demands have come down from 40 closer to 30. Is that your read on things?
I mean, and the negotiation is always about movement on both sides. At this point, I think it's always hard to know exactly where something will land. I think as long as they're talking to each other, that is positive, and that is what is happening.
You're sensing the gap is closing. The spread has narrowed.
I'll say it this way, I've seen this a lot. I think that the parties always seem like they're far apart until they're not. So that always requires movement. And I think the continued engagement is a positive thing. And it's part of the reflection of President Biden and this administration's commitment to workers getting their fair share in an economy that is doing really well.
We also have healthcare strikes as well. I understand you've met leadership from both sides. Julie, how different is that particular strike? What do you think is going on there?
I mean, every strike has its unique issues, right? The industries are different, the specific demands are different, but I think at the bottom line is that we are seeing a resurgence in worker power, in support for unions in the economy, and for working people demanding their fair share, saying, enough of the disparities between what frontline workers make and what CEOs make, making sure that there is an opportunity for workers to improve their working conditions and live stable lives. This is not just an accident in a Biden-Harris administration. It is very much a deliberate part of how we think a strong economy and a strong country works.
Madam Secretary, as you rightly said, we are seeing a shift back in bargaining power towards labor after decades where it went the other way. That's being reflected in a spike higher in number of days of strikes throughout the economy. Should we expect that number to go even higher?
I think it also reflects really record contract results, right? So we've seen from the ports on the West Coast to the Teamsters and UPS, really results that demonstrate workers getting more in wages, ending forced overtime, dealing with other specific issues within certain industries, around automation and the like, addressing conditions like heat and other kinds of health and safety issues. So I think those are the big results. And some of them we're talking about, we don't talk about them as much, but there are, graduate workers who have gone on strike for brief periods and gotten contracts that they want. So I don't know what the average number of days is, but I do know that workers coming to the table, being able to have the right to demand their fair share is something that has been positive for workers and is very much part of the strong economy that we've been talking about, and the jobs report reflects this.
And yet we have not seen that in the numbers on earnings. So is it just a lag effect? Are we going to see it going forward? Or is there something else going on in the economy that's offsetting those gains that you talked about for workers?
Yeah, so earnings are up a bit. We definitely especially see that among lower wage workers, which is part of this idea that, the president has said, we're going to build an economy that leaves no one behind. That starts by looking at who's been left behind in the past, and to the extent that those lower wage workers are seeing average gains that are growing and also that are higher than inflation, means that workers have more money in their pockets, more to spend in their local economies. That's also partly fueling the other effects of the jobs report, which is more job growth in leisure and hospitality, for example. All of these taken together, along with a historically low unemployment rate, still under 4% for over a year and a half, the longest stretch of the 1960s, are all signs that this economy is a place that, is doing well because of good economic policies and workers having a seat at the table.
Well, let's talk about those policies. There is something really peculiar going on at the moment. If you think about what's happening at the picket line, they have serious concerns about the EV transition and their participation in it. A transition that you are subsidizing. Something really odd from my perspective, and I'd love some clarity from you on it. Why is the government offering rich people credits to buy expensive cars?
So a couple of things. There is widespread support in the country for tax credits that will help to bring manufacturing jobs to the United States. That's part of what we're trying to do. The other is that we do have a climate crisis, right? We saw record heat across the entire country.
Without a doubt. Can I just jump in? Without a doubt. I totally agree with you, but I just think we're conflating solving a climate crisis with driving really heavy SUVs that run on electricity. Are those two things part of the same story? Because I don't get it. If I'm driving an electrified F-150, am I really saving the planet?
Right. Well, so we could probably have a conversation now about personal choices relating to cars. I do think as a policy matter, the more that we can invest in industries, in manufacturing, including in transportation, that transitions us to a place where we're not continue to pollute the planet, right? We have a method by which we can both bring down emissions and also create good jobs. And the president has always said that solving our climate crisis, when he looks at that, it's also about creating good jobs and good union jobs in communities that need them the most. And we are really focused on making sure that that transition does not leave workers behind, and that what's good for the climate can be good for workers as well.
Julie, appreciate the update. Julie Su, acting US Secretary of Labor.